Now, we talked about significant APMs around the world, but can you give us a bit of a breakdown for the US market?
Sure. So the US market obviously is dominated by cards today. So there really isn't an alternative payment unless you're looking at things like PayPal, which would probably be one of the first dominant alternative payments. But really at the end of the day, it's a wallet that most people are using a card or a bank account to fund. And then you may have something like a Venmo, which is a P2P trying to transfer. So that might be as far as we look at in the US of being what an alternative payment is. Around the globe, though, obviously there are recognized alternative payments. In Europe, there are dozens of these alternative payments. Most of them are bank transfer methods. Some of them, like a bank contact in Belgium, is really used both as a card as well as an online payment method, but it's also a bank transfer method. And then you have things like Sofort and Ideal, Multibanco, which are all bank transfer methods that consumers in Europe are using. If you think about LATAM, I mentioned Boleto Bancario and OXXO as being the major cash-based methods, but there's dozens of others that are used more locally. Obviously in Asia, you think about the wallets of the world, Alipay and WeChat Pay, which are becoming really significant in the US for Chinese shoppers coming abroad and shopping in the US, visiting from a tourist standpoint. But globally, those are growing payment methods for two reasons. One is there's billions of Chinese, there's hundreds of millions that are using these payment methods, and they're shopping abroad. They're doing cross-border shopping on e-commerce. And then you have obviously a significant path of various APMs all across Pan-Asia, and then getting into India and Africa. So all of these variant payment methods dominate the landscape globally, but here in the US, obviously we're very card-centric. So as merchants begin to look at how am I selling my goods and services in Indonesia, and what payment methods do I need to consider? How am I marketing to those consumers in that region? And those are all considerations. And so PPRO, in an effort to help the landscape here in the US, we work with a variety of acquirers and PSPs to provide them access to hundreds of local payment schemes across the globe. And we're giving them access really on a back end, on a white labeled solution. So they're presenting it to their merchants as it's their part of their total solution. And a merchant can sign up for various acquiring services that'll include both card, but it'll also provide them access to these other local payment schemes. So as they begin to sell abroad, as they begin to see that expansion, they'll be able to look to their acquirer, to their PSP, and say, hey, I need this payment method in this certain country. Can I get that turned on? And then they'll offer it to those consumers. So it really becomes a homogeneous exercise of providing an ideal solution to the consumers, so it's seamless for them, and it feels very natural for the consumers in the other countries to buy and even sell goods.
Excellent. So as you mentioned, despite this fragmentation, with PPRO, you can actually help bring this all together under one roof.
That's correct. Yeah, that's really what our company's core values are, and the values that we provide to the payment landscape is a one-stop solution. So both from an integration standpoint for our PSPs and acquiring partners, we don't work directly with merchants. We work only with those payment service providers. But through one integration and through one contractual relationship, we're providing them over 140 payment methods globally. And then we also do the full reconciliation and settlement to those acquirers. So we really help on the back end as well. As you can imagine, all of these different payment methods, they have different settlement times, they have different ways that they process, and there's a lot of variance there. We try to make it very complete from one solution standpoint. So for the acquirer and the PSP, it's very easy. And then when they offer it and they provide it to their merchants, it becomes just as easy for them. So it's very seamless for a merchant to be able to access this and treat it just as they would any other payment method, with some variance there. But in terms of collection and settlement and offering it, it's very easy.